There are things or there are sentences you have to speak back to yourself or to tell yourself every morning when you wake up. Just after you open your eyes, then after you said your prayers, if you are a prayerful person, there are several things that you have to talk to yourself about. You know, our brain is wired in such a way that it is influenced by things we hear, things we see, things we touch. And it can be conditioned. So every day you're being conditioned by very many sentences that come your way and statements that come your way. So there are things in life every morning you have to tell yourself, and this is this simple sentence that can change and will change your life. The sentence is, today is going to be a good day. Today is going to be a good day. You know what you're doing when you're saying that to yourself, and you say it loudly. If you need to say it like 3 times, 4 times, 5 times in the morning, just before you open your social media, just before you open your television, just before you open your radio, just before you go out of the house, you can say it to yourself as many times as you can. And this is the reason why. The moment you open that social media, the moment you open that TV, the moment you open to that radio, you have already every sentence that is going to come from those medias will start influencing you. The moment you start speaking to somebody in your house, whatever they say to you will start conditioning your brain. It will start programming your brain. So it pays to always make sure that you have programmed your brain in the right way. So, in the morning, you've got to tell yourself, today is going to be a good day. In any case, Proverbs 23 verse 7 says, as a man thinketh, so he is, or so is he. What that means is that whatever you are thinking, it will be displayed in your behavior. Modern psychology actually validates this concept. And there is something called self-fulfilling prophecy, and there's something called neuroplasticity. So your thoughts dictate your emotional state, which in turn drives how you behave. I'll give you an example. If you have very negative thoughts in the morning, I assure you, by the time it gets to the evening, you will be feeling very drained and very tired. Because the behaviors that you're going to portray for that day will be very negative behaviors. You've met people whom you try to talk to them, and the only thing they reflect or they radiate is negativity. It is what they tell themselves every day in the morning. They tell themselves, oh, life is so hard. Oh, I can't make it. Or this and that. Negative things. So even when they meet or they find themselves in circumstances that would have changed the situation they are facing, the negativity is too much in their brain is so conditioned to negativity that they don't see the positive thing that is being given to them. It's something worth thinking. What are you telling your brain the first thing in the morning? Now, modern psychology as well says that if you proactively shape your internal monologue, you literally rewire your brain to perceive and interact with the world in a different way. What do we mean? You actually talk to yourself. You tell yourself, today is going to be a good day. Today I'm going to win. I am winning this bit. I am winning that. I am achieving this. I am doing this. I am, helping here. You tell yourself positive things. I have things to do in this world. I have a positive contribution to make in this world. You have to tell yourself a monologue. But if you have to have a monologue, not to tell yourself a monologue, but you have to have a monologue with yourself. Talk to yourself, encourage yourself. Yeah. In fact, in another part of the Bible it says, encourage yourself in the Lord. So if you don't trust yourself to encourage yourself, you lean on to that word. In 1903, there was a gentleman called James Allen. He is actually the one who popularized this Proverbs 23 and verse 7. And he wrote a book called As a Man Thinketh. So this is what he argues. If you change your mind and cultivate pure and noble thoughts, you will alter your character and in turn improve your outward life. That's the argument in the whole of this book. So this thing is critical. It is as important as your life. What you think. And there is another phrase that is used nowadays by the psychologists. It's called self-directed neuroplasticity or cognitive restructuring. You would think it is, like very scientifically, well, it is scientific, but it has its basis in that Proverb's word. In the Proverb 23 verse 7. That's the basis of it all. It is what you tell yourself every morning. So these psychologists, this is what they say. Every repeated thought acts as water cutting through a canyon. Like the Grand Canyon in the US or many other canyons that you may find around the world. What happens in the formation of this Grand Canyon? If the earth was flat in that place and water kept passing through same point, it kept passing that, it will start creating that valley slowly, and then it will be deep, and you may have eventually after many years you have the Great Canyon. So it started as water just flowing through us a certain point. It's the same with our thoughts. We cultivate a thought, we think about the thought, we water the thoughts, we keep talking about the thoughts, and it keeps on growing and growing and growing and going, and then it forms a landscape. That thought forms your character, and that character forms your behavior, and that what either takes you to greater heights or takes you way down to the dogs. All those times and all those years that the water was cutting through that, nobody noticed that thing much. You wouldn't notice what is going on. But with time, the results show. So what are neural pathways? These are highways in our brain. Imagine your brain having highways connecting different places, different corners of the brain or different regions of the brain. So these different regions of the brain that do different things. So this connectivity are called the neural pathways or the highways. And they transmit electrical and chemical signals to process information, enabling everything we think, feel, and do. And why is this important? This is important because this is what we feed, and it will connect to the different regions of the brain, which affects how we behave. So when you repeatedly think, feel, or do something, the neural connections grow stronger and more efficient. And over time, these pathways can become automatic. So that's why you find yourself, for example, the people who are drivers, you don't even think much. When you are fully experienced, you don't even think much when you're driving. You just know when to shift gears, you just know when to indicate, the pathways have already connected. So the brains have already the various parts of the brain are already connected. That is why we should always speak positively to ourselves in the morning. And eventually, it will become a habit. And our brains will be wired in such a way that we will have positivity throughout the day. My psychology professor, Charity, forgive me if I've forgotten all those things you taught me about the brain, but this is the thing. there is a scientific or a scientifically proven fact that how you manipulate what you think will shape who you become, it will shape your character, it will shape your behavior. Back to for today's message. Always speak positive things and keep repeating it to yourself in the morning. Tell yourself in the morning, today will be a great day. All the time, and keep repeating it. And with time, you will see the difference that will make with life. Adios.